Hi, my name is Peter Grogan. We're going to find out the difference it makes to a journey carrying bikes on the roof of an EV. We're travelling 369 miles for our family holiday from our house in Cheshire to the Highlands of Scotland with 3 bikes on the roof of our Tesla Model 3. The Tesla roof bars use a similar type of system to many other systems. They kind of have a T-shaped hole in this groove in the top of the roof bar, and then the standard roof racks from Thule, for example, slot right in here and then tighten up, so you get a really firm mounting. Well, I fitted my roof bars, I fitted my cycle racks, and now I just need to load the bikes. Okay, everyone ready to go to Scotland? Yeah, the car's packed, everything else? Yeah? Good.
Oh, Mummy.
Yeah, don't go without Mummy.
Oh, don't go with Mummy.
Can you imagine if I had to have a week in the house on my own?
We've got 262 miles of range, and according to this, we've got about 275 miles to do today to get to Pitlochry, which is where we're headed to tonight. It was pretty normal driving the car on the motorway, as you probably expect. We're doing about 70 miles an hour. There's a bit of wind whistling from the bikes, so it's a bit of wind noise, but nothing you wouldn't expect. Obviously it's going to make a bit of a difference to your aerodynamics having a load of bikes strapped to the roof. So now we've been driving for 2 hours. We have 165 miles range according to the battery monitor and 211 miles to go. So you notice that as the traffic's thinned out a bit, we've been able to go up to the maximum speed limit for all the motorways in the UK, about 70 miles an hour. The rate that we're getting through our charges has increased a bit. We didn't seem to go down at all very quickly when we were going traffic, but now it seems to be a bit more unexpected with the bikes on the roof. So about 3 hours into our journey, and we've got 100 miles of range left according to the Tesla, which is kind of this, assuming we don't have any the Tesla would assume we're not having any bikes on the roof or anything like that. And we've got 172 miles left to go to get to Pitlochry. So the Tesla is suggesting that we get to Abingdon. Going to the sat nav, we'll have 6% of charge left to Abingdon, which might be a bit close. We don't normally get down to 6% before we stop. There's one at Gretna Green, which is closer, but apparently all the chargers and stalls are currently full at Gretna Green. So don't really fancy waiting around for ages. But so what we'll do is I'm just going to reduce the speed a bit to about 65 miles an hour. So we decided to stop at Gretna Green. It makes a lot of sense with the bikes on the roof. Yeah, we could have probably pushed on to Abingdon, but in the end, just as we got here, there was a car leaving, so we didn't have to wait at all. That said, it's the first time I've ever been to a Tesla supercharger and had to wait, and I think there's a couple of other people who have arrived here that are thinking the same thing. Normally there's about 10 different superchargers, and normally it's got some free spots. We decided this time to stop, and at the end of the day we're here to enjoy our holiday, not to see how far we can drive without charging. Now we've got 140 miles of range and 96 miles to go to our stay at Pitlochry. We had 240 miles of range when we finished filling up at Gretna, so we should have plenty of range though to get all the way to Pitlochry. But we're going to stop at Perth because Perth is actually the last supercharger that we'll go past before we get to our holiday cottage, so it'd be nice to get there with a reasonable amount of charge. When we get there we just hope to be able to plug it into the cottage, and I'll hopefully show it later. It was really nice stopping at the Gretna supercharger because there was only 4 stalls and there's probably about 6 Teslas there. one guy's finished, his family was still walking the dog and stuff before getting back in. He had a good chat about his Tesla and how he enjoyed driving it. There was another guy who'd had one for 2 years. He'd driven up from London with his family. Both guys actually were asking about the roof bars, about how it was to tow bikes, to have bikes on the roof, and to what difference it made to driving. So obviously it's something that interests a lot of Tesla drivers. Got 131 miles of range and 60 miles to the Perth supercharger, and we're stuck in traffic, which is rather annoying. One thing I've really noticed about driving in traffic with an electric car is it really doesn't affect your range at all. In fact, you know, unlike a petrol car, of course, you're just going to be chugging that engine away and it's not really doing anything. With the electric car, it just isn't doing very much, so it doesn't use up much fuel. So now we've got 83 miles of range. We've got about 30 miles to go to get to Perth. Just going past Stirling Castle, and it's about 6 hours 20 since we set off. So it's definitely turned into a bit of an epic journey. So now we've got 36 miles of range and about 3.9 miles from Perth supercharger. I was expecting to have a bit more electricity left in the battery at this point. I think that there has been a bit of a wind. Most of the wind turbines have been facing towards the direction we're travelling, which means we're heading into the wind most of the time, which I think definitely with the bikes can make a big difference. So now we're at Perth supercharger, and this is our last supercharger we'll be able to go to pretty much for most of the holiday, unless we end up going to have more. So we're going to charge here as much as we can to make sure that we've got plenty of electricity to get all the way to our holiday cottage. We're going to stop overnight in Pitlochry on the way, and it's not very far, so we're not going to be travelling at motorway speed, so I think that we should get a fairly good economy out of the car at that point. So now we've got 255 miles of range, 10 miles to go to Pitlochry where we're staying tonight, and we've been going for 8 hours. We did stop a couple of times, of course, but we're now going to go and have a good sleep, hopefully. So it's the second day of travelling to our holiday cottage in Scotland. We've got 68 miles to go, got 221 miles of range now. We sort of spent a bit of time in Pitlochry looking around and stuff like that, and there's something we've picked up which I'll show you later in the video, and it should be about an hour and 48 minutes to get there, so we'll probably stop to get some food on the way, but we're all ready to go. So we've just heading our way down to Braemar. We've just been over the summit of the road past Glenshee ski resort, up to over 2,000 feet height, the summit of the road there, and definitely got through a lot of charge. Well, just extra, we lost 10 miles to be honest getting over that, but now we're regathering and recouping that as we go back down the other side, so it's quite nice to see the regenerative braking working pretty well. The bike's always stable on the top even though it's quite windy. Approaching to the cottage now. We've got 126 miles of range, 2.1 miles to go up this little road. Here we are now in our holiday cottage in Scotland. We've got about 125 miles of range. We've got an extra bike on the roof. We bought it in. So the conclusion is that it is very doable to bring 3 bikes on the roof of an electric car up 350 miles to Scotland, especially if it's a Tesla. Of course, with the Tesla supercharger network rumoured to be opening up to other vehicles later on this year, and certainly in the UK and probably most of Europe, it's probably going to be doable for lots of other cars as well. Second conclusion really is that once we got here it's been absolutely fine. We just plugged the car into a 3-pin plug, which happens to be in this shelter which is in the grounds of the house we're staying at. And the third conclusion, it's actually great to come up to Scotland and go mountain biking because there's some brilliant stuff around here. So on this journey we certainly did think about charging a lot more than we would do normally, but at no point was it ever stressful for us.
The three key things we did learn from this trip though. The first is that by putting 3 mountain bikes or bikes on the roof of our Tesla Model 3, it affected the range, reducing it by about a third. And this was pretty standard no matter what kind of terrain we were on. The only time it was really any different from that was when we were travelling in traffic where it hardly used a battery at all. The second thing is that it is much better to stop more frequently on the motorway than to try and go as far as you can on one charge and then fill up huge until it's 100% when you're there, because the rate that the battery charges reduces so much over the time as it gets more and more full. So you actually find that you save yourself a lot of time on your journey if you top up for about 25 minutes and then move on to another destination charger, another charger on your way, and then top up there again. Obviously, depending on how much charge you're getting through, will depend on how often you have to stop. But certainly, little and often, up to 20 to 25 minutes, is much more efficient than trying to stay in one charger for a long time. The third thing we learnt was that charging from a standard UK 3-pin plug was absolutely fine when we were on holiday. We weren't travelling a massive distance every day, but generally we would plug the car in about 5 o'clock and then in the afternoon, and then leave it plugged in till about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock the next morning. Easily 16-17 hours, which is enough to give us 160 to 170 miles of extra range. It was about 10 miles an hour charging. So it really didn't matter the fact that there wasn't a proper Type 2 charger at our destination. And that really is the key conclusions from our trip. So what of the purchase that we made in Pitlochry? Well, it's this. It's our first e-bike we've got as a family. It's a Merida Big Tour 600. It's a very, very capable bike. We tested it out in Scotland and it was amazing how it can fly up hills. But more of that in a future episode. If you find this particular video interesting or useful, then please subscribe to my channel and hopefully we'll see you another time. Thank you.